Social Perspectives is brought to you by Everett and Kennings.
In 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education was a landmark case. The Supreme Court ruling changed the educational system in America. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King shared with the world a dream that he had, and that dream changed the civil rights era in America. In 2008, Barack Obama emerged as a celebrated, charismatic leader who became president, the first black president of these United States. And he changed the political system in America. And now, 2020, this is the year where black women will change the social fabric of America. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sometimes God interrupts the normal course of history and gives us leaders whose gifts and insights are used to transform a generation. We have the privilege of presenting such a leader. He is an accomplished jazz musician, best-selling author, entrepreneur, and beloved senior minister of Mill Branch Baptist Church, J.G. Everett Ministries. Our host, Dr. J. Gentile Everett.
In 1968, Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm became the first black woman to be elected to the United States House of Representatives. In 1972, she became the first woman to run for the Democratic Party's nomination for the office of President of the United States. Interestingly enough, she emerged as a political tsunami during the time when George Wallace, the face of Southern segregation, was busy pontificating segregation today, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. There was in this young woman an ostensible intestinal fortitude that drove her to be a vessel for good, for the proliferation of equality and justice, irrespective of how insurmountable it may have seemed to be. There was a drive within her. She had a small anatomical frame, but there was a drive that would embolden her to put herself on the public chopping block, to deal with ridicule, to have to suffer demeaning, pejorative characterizations of who she was. Yet she ran. She ran even though she understood during this time the masses in America did not believe black people were either capable or competent enough to run any enterprise of any significance. But she ran. She was not deterred. She was determined she was going to run because she recognized that that moment, that propitious moment, was bigger than her. She understood that that moment would be tied to African American history and American history in general. She understood that this was a moment in time when other young blacks and minorities would read about what she tried to do, and it might inspire them to be the highest version of themselves. Her candidacy and prospects of winning was indeed the longest political shot in history. But she ran. She knew at the outset that she probably just would not win, may not even come close to winning. Think about the kind of mindset you must have to go play a game. You dress for that game. You work out for that game. You prepare yourself for that game. But you know as soon as you take the field or you take the floor, you already know you're not going to win. To most of us, it would deflate us. It would disrupt our morale. And we probably would not give it the effort that we have within us. But that was not true with her. With these crazy odds of winning, she decided she would run. Because she felt like the moment was bigger than her. She felt like she had a duty to humanity. She felt like God had created her to serve others and to show others the way. And to give others an opportunity within themselves to believe that they could push themselves and they could soar to be things that others could only imagine that they would do. Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm decided that I want America to know, in this vast vista of opportunity, opportunities should not be summoned only by those who are of Caucasian descent. She also believed that opportunities should not be limited to those who might have a preferential hue. She believed that in America, you should be judged on the merit of who you are, not where you came from. So we take this time and we say to the world, the spirit of Shirley Chisholm is back on the rise. I can feel it. Even though she lost, she continued to serve 7 terms. She served with devotion and with dignity and distinction her constituency there in Harlem, New York. What are we to take or gather from this towering statue of Black womanhood? One might ask. Her life and legacy are a glaring display of high self-esteem, and understanding that she had an internal worth that reaffirmed the buoyant movements of blood in her veins that kept her believing she was part of an ethos that would not permit herself to accept that her Blackness was a deficit or her gender was a handicap. Often walking like a significant with a sense of total purpose. And that was she would not allow the negative, cacophonous whims of the adversary drown out the melody of purpose to which she had been assigned. In her mind, sometimes trouble was necessary if the voices of the unheard, the cries of the oppressed, and the loud bombast of the hurt can somehow traverse itself to the ears of the politically powerful. Well, to her, it was not trouble. In the words of the late, great John Lewis, it was good trouble. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm J. Gentile Everett, bringing you a new show to CW22 in Raleigh. Social Perspectives. The weight of every humanistic event is measured by the impact it has on our institutions of commerce, religion, politics, and religious freedoms. Join us each Saturday morning beginning September 12 at 6:30 a.m. on Social Perspectives. I'm J. Gentile Everett. I'll be seeing you at that time.
Welcome back to Social Perspectives. In our last segment, we were talking about the influence that Shirley Chisholm continues to have on our political landscape today. But I cannot help but to think about from 1972 to now. Much has happened. But I do see a kind of reoccurrence that's erupting right before our eyes. 48 years ago seemed to be a long time. But here we are in 2020. We stand again amid another momentous moment. Just like Shirley Chisholm emerged on the political scene as a result of political and racial extremism. I want us to think about that. The principle of social compensation is interesting to me. When leadership veers too much in one direction, there seems to be an inherent eagerness for an antithetical inertia to move and bring about a kind of change and bring about a kind of balance in our society. Let me try to elucidate. If we're going to live in a vitriolic and ugly political atmosphere, if it's going to be demeaning, and if it's going to cast all kinds of ugliness on other people because of either race or their origins, you may as well get ready. There's going to be a change. There has to be a change. Because the one thing that I have found out about the principle of compensation with respect to politics, church, society at large, the pendulum will swing to bring society or any organization back into a place where there is amenable and congenial discourse. In other words, we cannot survive as a country or as any other kind of entity where there's strife and bitterness and hatred. We cannot thrive and we cannot survive. There will be destruction as a result of those manifestations. There's no getting around that. So what happened now? The present political atmosphere is far from ideal. Let's be candid. Things are difficult right now. Every time you turn on the television, the Democrats and Republicans are at odds. There's always a group here and a group there. America's sort of acting like a cheap watch. We click here and we click there without being brought together under an umbrella of love and concern for each other. It is my prayer that we will emerge from this moment. But I do know change is on the rise. And it's not going to matter how ugly people may be. I've seen some really ugly t-shirts and some incendiary remarks made about the Democratic Party and what's happening in it. The idea of inclusion, the idea of bringing all of the various backgrounds together and ethnicities and say, let's try to live together. Let's try to be tolerant of each other. Whether that is your politics or not, a change is coming. We can't help it and no one will be able to stop it. 48 years ago, when Shirley Chisholm ran for president, that was almost an enigma. It was something that everybody was trying to understand. What would give her the mind to think she could be president? See, there's something greater than what we see when we see each other. The inner tribe and the inner spirit. That which really characterize who we are. That's what's often missed. Who would have ever thought in 2020, 48 years after she ran, that Kamala Harris, senator from California, graduate of Howard University. I didn't say Harvard, but Howard University. an HBCU, and a member of the AKA sorority, a black sorority, has now been chosen to run on the same ticket as vice president with the Democratic nominee, Joe Biden. Change is coming. If they are not successful in winning this time, it's only a matter of time. It will happen. There's no getting around it. Sometimes change comes in stages. Sometimes change has to be tried out. But change is still coming. The only thing that we can count on happening is time will change. It's irrefutable. Do you know, for some 400 years, biblical Israel was in bondage and enslaved. Many were born in and died in slavery, just like the African American slaves of this country. But God sent Moses at a certain point, and it was Moses that led the freedom of those enslaved Israelites. Nobody thought it was going to happen, but it happened. Be careful about who you oppress and who you enslave. It's amazing. Those things have a way of turning on its head. Emancipation will come, and the black woman who has led so many movements this year, she's on the rise. We can see it clearly in Kamala Harris being chosen for vice president by the Democratic Party. I hope that black women everywhere will embrace this special moment. It is a period of great unrest, but black women have accepted this moment as a time to right the wrongs for those who have managed to keep them down for so long. Too many black men are incarcerated on too many phony convictions. But the black woman has decided that I am going to have to do what I need to do to make life better for me and my children, even if I do not have the support of a man. The new black woman is finding new strength to propel the community to a greater sense of political awareness. She has become the Esther of the Old Testament. Those of you who love to read the Bible, surely you've heard of Esther. And black women are saying, like Esther, I'm going to see the king. Even when people try to tell Esther, no, you can't, Esther said, I'm going to see the king. I can see right now many of our black sisters saying, if I perish, let me perish. But I'm going to see the king. What is the king that black women are talking about? It's not the royalty of a court. King. She's talking about equal pay for equal work. That's the king. She's talking about equal protection under the law. That's the king. She's talking about equal treatment for mortgages. That's the king. She's talking about job promotion on the basis of merit and not skin color. That's the king. To all of you, my sisters, I applaud you. Go see the king. It's your time. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When your ministry is ready to expand and grow and you are in need of financing, before you go anywhere, give Everett and Kennings a call. With minimal information, Everett and Kennings can have you financed in 1 to 2 days. The interest rates are at an all-time low and no credit checks are necessary. No personal guarantees. This company is owned by ministers who understand vision, and they have loan programs for any situation. Construction or renovation, they have the funds to do your deal. You can call them at 877-320-0115, 24 hours a day, and they have staff to direct you. Everett and Kennings, your one stop for all your ministry financial needs. Their motto is, pastors bring the message, we'll bring the money for ministry.
Welcome back to Social Perspectives. If I were writing and I were about to make an abrupt change in ideas or writing material, it would be called a kind of peripetia. But since this is a broadcast and I'm going to pivot because there is something I need to share with you that I think has great import. Just a couple of days ago, we've learned that there's been another shooting. Another shooting of a young African-American man with his 3 children. I don't know what happened before the incident, and I don't know what happened after. But what I did see was chilling, because here we are again having to deal with another shooting. This young man was shot in the back some 7 times in front of his children. It troubled my heart to see it. And then I looked at his fiancée, who, needless to say, was extremely hurt and was speaking out of her emotions like any of the rest of us would have. She said in her remarks, it wasn't about stopping him. It seemed like it was just about killing him. Does it take 7 bullets in the back? And we're talking about police weaponry? Things are still sad in America. We're still fighting this same fight. And frankly, I'm tired of it, and I know you are. I'm so tired of every day cutting on the television, and here we're seeing another shooting. And it can't just be one shot to stop someone. It has to be several shots fired and close range. Truthfully, it seemed like the police was not trying to keep law and order. It seemed like they were engaged in retribution of some kind. It seemed like it was such a passionate shooting that seemingly was meant to kill. Thank God, as of this filming, Mr. Blake is still alive in stable condition. But we don't know what's going to happen in the end. My prayers go to that family, because I still believe it doesn't matter how somebody does you still have a responsibility to yourself and a responsibility to the standards of acceptable behavior. Maybe it's because I'm a pastor, and maybe it is out of that posture that I speak. But I still believe, don't become your enemy. Don't allow the ugliness from your enemy cause you to become ugly. Win life with love. Love is still the most potent weapon in the world. It was a weapon that
has kept Black America going all of these years, and Black churches and Black organizations. The power of love. It has been that single thing that has kept families together amid great turmoil and tragedy. And while I'm asking each of you to be in prayer for that family, I'm going to say to you in my conclusion, this is a particularly special time. My last aunt, Mrs. Gertrude Ingram, Mrs. Annie Gertrude Ingram, just passed a couple of days ago. She was 100 years old. And she was in her right mind her whole life with an incredible memory. She was one of those that were there when I started preaching. She was there in my childhood sicknesses. She always prayed for me. She always encouraged me. I remember one Sunday I was in high school and I preached at a church, and the church did not have any money to give me. And that was okay. I went on and was glad to preach. But she called me to her house the next day. And she gave me money because she wanted to encourage me. She always said to me, never be bitter and never be ugly. Let other people do and say whatever they want to say or do. You keep being true to the principles and the person that God has made you. I want to thank you, Aunt Kurt, for all of those years, all of the love, all of the times I went over there and I ate chicken, even the times you had to find a switch and beat me or whip me when you thought I needed it. Thank you for all of that. I'm going to miss you. But I'll always remember the wonderful, beautiful smile that you kept on your face all the time. So as I close tonight's show, I want everyone to know that this show is dedicated to my aunt, my last aunt, the last sister my father had, and the last direct descendant of my grandfather. And all of you know the relationship I had with my grandfather. I will miss you, Aunt Gert. I always loved you, and I'll always keep you very close in my heart. Thank you very much. We're going to end it there. We want all of you to make sure you look at all of the credits that we have and all of the sponsors that we will be advertising. They're all great people, and they're doing a great service to the community. So we're encouraging you to please support them. Make sure you let them know that Gentile sent you. So I want you to take tonight and think about life and be glad that you are still here with people that are around you, and tell them that you love them, because you never know when it'll be the last time. I'm J. Gentile Everett. I'm going to see you the next time on Social Perspectives.